My name is Peter Adelaja Olaide. I'm an artist and also a performance artist. My art practice encompasses in the fact that I love to represent my imaginations in tangible forms. And then these imaginations, they transcend things that could be described vividly in words. And sometimes it takes actions. So as a dancer, I tend to embody these imaginations and these realities. So as a sculptor, I began to question, how can I make these very short-lived performances and scenarios more tangible and more permanent? In that, as a dancer, the moment flies by after the performance. Even if it's recorded, it cannot be as though when it was being performed. So as a sculptor, bringing to life, bringing back those scenarios, those emotions, and those feelings that seems to be so abstract, and then bringing them in a tangible form. I work with various materials, but my main focus presently has been the stones, which is metaphorical and also very contrast to the nature of what I'm doing and what I intend to talk about. In that, stone in itself, it's a very coarse and very rigid material. And I intend to talk about movements, flows, emotions. So this brings about my philosophy in balance. So bringing the stones to the place of fluidity and taking away the rigid understanding and rigid view of the viewer. You know, when you see a rock, you see the stone, like, oh, this thing can easily kill me, this thing is heavy. But my intention is to give this soft-like nature, which as a dancer, I try to depict when I move. So it goes hand in hand from the dance, back to the sculpture, back to the dance. So the flows of the marble, for example, will, at a first glance, you might think it's plastic. You might think it's not something so heavy, something so solid. So it brings in that everything we see is not as it actually appears. Because beyond a person, there is a story, there's a background, there's somewhere they're coming from. So these things comes to play in using the stone to depict something soft. Until you move closer, I'm like, can I touch? So I've had that severally, like, can I touch this? Because they want to be sure of what they're seeing. The concepts I explore majorly are concepts of emotions, the concept of the intangible realms we live in. For example, when we talk about depression, it's a word used almost vulgar these days. Everyone says depression and all of that. But depression doesn't just come, it has so many other things attached to it. It comes from a series of events, it comes from a series of words spoken, it comes from a series of happenings all around. So my intention is to bring those things into a more physical form with the hope that when people see them, they can be able to say, oh, I feel attraction, so I can understand what's actually going. Because for me, my journey, I've been through phases of depression and all. I realized that one of the reasons why we go in circles in depression is probably because we've not been able to see, and we don't really know the source of what our mind is going through. So it's quite difficult to break out, so we just keep going in circles and circles. So my sculptures, for example, I had a sculpture some time ago, one of my first series of sculptures on chaos and balance. It was more of creating movements around stone that seems so peaceful, but at the same time, you are aggrieved in a way when you see the way the movements are interwoven and all and all and all. What I talk about are the intangible feelings we have from deep within and try to bring them into reality in tangible forms. It's quite difficult, like not even quite, very difficult. Because it all started in 2022 when I went for a workshop in Delta State. There's Bruce and Obrakwe Amatan workshop. So they are the deposits of materials on stones, and from what I heard from the facilitators, that the stones have been lying there for years. Nobody wants to work in stone. So as a young artist, I was just coming out of school and I was still questioning. I worked in several materials at the workshop, but the stone just stuck with me. And then since then, I've been going for the exhibition back and forth to, source for stone from that same location. And also, I've been able to research other locations. Like when there's a place in Ibadan, I don't know if it's Ibadan or your state, it's called Ile-Ife, and then it has a rich deposit of pure marble there. And we've not even scratched the surface. That's how much marble is not being valued around here, but it's actually a very valuable material. And for the soapstone, I still go back to Delta State every now and then to source for the stones. And yeah, it's a very tedious process. For me, I have conversations with everything I do. Even when I dance, when I create anything, drawings, let the work breathe. Let the work has a life of its own. So most times when I walk, sometimes I can walk at a long hours a stretch and then just take a moment. It doesn't even have to necessarily mean I'm stuck or something, but just let the work speak as you walk. That's the best way I can put it. There's no other way. Because actually, if we look at everything created, they have a life of their own, not as we humans breathe and talk and all. So everything actually does. It's part of my philosophy. I believe everything has a life of its own. So if we stay long enough or we're patient enough with whatever material we work with, we can tell what this material is telling me to do. So it's beyond just what I want to do. Sometimes I do sketches and then I start working, and as I walk, I realize the stone is saying something different from what I sketched. So I just sometimes abandon, or sometimes I just pick elements from my drawings and then flow alongside with the stones.